Welcome back to the Chelsweets kitchen. Today I'm sharing this hot cocoa cake. So this cake is perfect for winter. It's really started to get cold outside and hot cocoa has definitely been on my mind. This cake is made with some chocolate sponge cake layers and I'm frosting it with a layer of marshmallow buttercream. On top of that, I'm adding a thick layer of milk chocolate ganache, which as you can see is super rich, super creamy, and it goes so well with all the different components of this cake. So I've never seen a hot cocoa that's complete without marshmallows, so I added some miniature marshmallows between each layer of this cake. So I just sprinkled them on top and then kind of gently pressed them into the ganache using my fingers. I repeated this process with my remaining cake layers, and as you guys can see, I'm using 7-inch cake layers here, and this cake is going to be 4 cake layers tall. Because of the number of layers and all the different fillings, this cake really ends up being quite tall. If you wanted your cake to be less tall, you could definitely make larger layers and fewer layers. For example, you could make 3 8-inch cake layers, or you could make 2 9-inch cake layers. So always keep that in mind when you're seeing these types of cakes. If you want something a little bit less tall, you can always alter the recipe. So once all of my cake layers were stacked, I piped some rings of buttercream around the cake, and then I also added on some dabs of my chocolate ganache. So for this cake, I wanted to go for a semi-naked look, so I began to swirl together both the ganache and the buttercream. As you do this, you need to be careful and gentle because the ganache is a thicker consistency than your buttercream, and you really just want to work to kind of meld them together. Just like a mug of fresh hot chocolate where the whipped cream is just starting to kind of dissolve into it, and you can see the beautiful swirls of whipped cream and all of that rich chocolate. So to finish this look, I used my bench scraper to really get the sides of the cake nice and smooth. And then I began to work on the decoration. So the next step was to add on some chocolate ganache drips, and of course I did a test drip to start. I have a full in-depth tutorial on how to add drips to a cake, so if you guys have any questions or you want to learn more about the process, you can click the link in the upper right corner. So for this cake, I really wanted to make some thick drips, and I was so happy with the consistency of these drips. I loved how they kind of pooled at the bottom. Really reminded me of just the most luscious chocolate experience. Next, I began to work on piping a border around the top of a cake, and I'm using my largest French star tip, which is an Ateco 869. I'm piping this border with the extra ganache that I had, and I'm adding it just around the perimeter of the cake. Once I had finished piping the border, I added some miniature marshmallows to the top of the cake, and couldn't resist adding a dusting of my favorite hot cocoa mix. And that is it. Our hot cocoa cake is complete. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial and that it reminds you just as much of a steaming hot glass of hot chocolate or hot cocoa as it does to me. So as you guys can see, we've got those beautiful chocolate sponge cake layers, both the marshmallow buttercream and the chocolate ganache filling, and of course all of those miniature marshmallows. Thanks so much for watching. If you guys have any ideas for future cakes that you'd like to see me make, please let me know in the comment section.